Now, Professor Camille Gierich of USC Gould School of Law and Cornell Brooks, the president and CEO of the NAACP. A pleasure to have both of you on. Welcome.
It's good to be with you.
Thank you for having me.
Cornell, let me just begin with you. I mean, you heard her with Matt Lauer. She says she identifies as a black woman. Do you think that she has disrespected African Americans?
Well, there are many people across this country who identify with the African American experience, music, culture, religion, art. But there's a difference between identifying with the experience and using that experience and misappropriating or malappropriating that experience. And there's a difference between talking about the experience, partaking of that experience, and using that experience in ways that are inauthentic. So what I want to focus on here is, in doing the work of the NAACP, what we have endeavored to do is create an America in which all Americans can partake of our ethnicities, our culture, our collective American experience as Americans, embracing all of America in its racial diversity. But that must be done authentically. That's critically important here. And it is a measure and a mark of leadership in terms of having integrity and authenticity. There are lots of unanswered questions with respect to her. She served well at that branch level. But at the end of the day, the work of the NAACP is creating a racism-free America. That's what's most important here.
Okay.
This lady identified as being another race. Now, to her is real. To her is actually real. She did all types of things to identify as being quote-unquote black. But I want you to understand that this is part of, again, the illusion that people are going through. And my question is, if you accept, those who accept the transgender era must accept all that I'm going to show you now. The next trans issue is transabled. These are individuals who are not, they feel like they're not whole until they chop off part of their bodies. In the wake of Bruce Jenner's gender-bending conversion, and Usher's order that transgender people can use whatever bathroom they feel like in the workplace, comes the next great frontier in the battle to create more human rights than there are human beings on earth. And this is a doozy. They're called transabled. And like the transgendered who feel trapped in a body with wrong sex organs, transabled people feel like imposters in their perfect good bodies and have an overwhelming desire to chop off a limb, blind themselves, make themselves deaf, or otherwise disable themselves. It's called transabled.
We've done in our 15-year history. This is really crazy. My guest began wearing women's clothing at age 12 and became a transsexual at age 35. But that's not the unusual part of this story. No. This transsexual also decided at the age of 14 that she didn't want her legs. So 1 year ago, she took a saw just like this. And she cut off, this is true, stop it. She cut off her own legs. Let's meet her. Here's Sandra. Sandra, Sandra, what? Okay, what's going on? This is strange, isn't it?
Yes, it is strange.
Okay, so how old are you now?
I'm 48.
Now you're 48. When you were 35, you decided to become a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's fine.
That's fine.
At what age did you think you didn't want your legs?
At 14.
At 14. When did you actually cut them off?
I cut this one off in 2000.
I thought that one went first, yeah. Okay, why did you cut your leg off?
I didn't want them. My brain just kept saying get rid of them, so I had to get rid of them.
kind of things have you done to get your legs?
I've injected my knee with my feces, 120 cc's under my kneecap, just liquefy it and pump it in. I've cut myself with razor blades. I've drove nails in the bone. My brain would just say, get a 16-penny nail and a hammer and drive it in the bone, and I just drive it in the bone. I built the guillotine and dropped it on my leg. That didn't work. So, you know, I was like, go back to the drawing board. I got to figure out something else. I cut the circulation off up here above the knee with radiator hose clamps that you put on the automobile.
Yeah.
And then down here I used like a pantyhose with like a noose on it and make it real tight. And then I just got my saw and got everything in the kitchen, got everything ready that I needed. And got up on the counter and I waited till the leg went numb and turned purple. And I got the saw and I put it on my leg and I powered it up. And then I shut it off and laid it on the counter. I looked at the saw and looked at my leg and said, well, it's now or never. You know, and I grabbed the saw and put it on my leg and powered it up.
Were you screaming? Were you drinking?
No.
A little bit.
Never did pass out. Never did pass out afterwards.
You didn't pass out?
It was calm and cool. My friends got there. They was all hysterical. Oh, you going to die? You going to die? I'm like, shut up and go call the ambulance, would you?
Was he serious about losing his legs? Was he committed? What's the difference between him and a female that was to cut off her breast? Or a man that was to eliminate his penis? What's the difference? There's no difference. There's no difference. They are as serious can get, but they don't make it right. What's so bad about this? They call this body integrity identity disorder, BIID. They still are labeling this as a mental disorder, but when someone wants to mutilate their genitalia, they say that's natural and normal. Transable. We got people who go from transable.
She said stop being trans or leave.
To transager.
So that, to me, stop being trans isn't something I could do. It'd be like telling me to stop being, you know,
look how he's dressed, like a little girl.
Or leave. And
he's not only identified as being a female, he identified as being a child.
I was trans before we married. I was a trans parent for 23 years. It floored me, it scared me, because I didn't know how to not be trans.
Stephanie Walsh, welcome to Daily Extra. You are one of the people profiled in the Transgender Project web series and as well the TV show Am I a Boy or a Girl? Why did you decide to go so public with your story?
I paid a pretty heavy price for transitioning, and so at a certain point I thought, I've already lost everything and everything's happened. I'm going to be me, and I'm going to show other people that it's okay to be feminine for a guy. And so by coming completely out of the closet, it just liberated me to the point where let's do this, let's talk about it, and let people know that this is okay. 2007, when I actually stepped forward and started getting myself educated as to who I was and what this was, I was pretty naive.
But that naivete would quickly come to a crashing halt. At age 46, after 23 years of marriage and 7 kids, Stephanie realized she wasn't a cross-dresser. She was transgender, a person whose gender is different than the sex they were assigned at birth.
I'm genderqueer, I'm queer, I'm queer.
So having said that, what have you heard from people?
A lot of feedback. There's a lot of positive feedback. There's a lot more people that are trans. Like, a lot of people come out to me. I get guys that you wouldn't think that want to wear, like cops and bikers, and can I wear a dress? So it gets very playful because you look at people and you think you understand what they're all about. You know, when you see a guy that's 300 pounds with a goatee who pulls in a Harley and is going through my closet and saying, can I wear this dress? Can I wear that dress? You know, or can I kiss you when I'm wearing the dress? You don't expect it.
That's right. Stephanie has moved on, believing that she will never be accepted by her wife and children. These days, she's got a job plowing snow and has a new family made up of friends and a new relationship.
There's days I forget my past. I can actually go a week without even thinking about what was before. So it's a fresh start. It's interesting because it's new to me, and I'm getting accepted in a way I've never been. There's unconditional love. I'm starting to feel like we have a quasi-family that we're creating,
in a church.
and I'm allowed to be exactly who I am, and I don't have to apologize or make excuses why I'm different. I can't deny I was married. I can't deny I have children, but I've moved forward now, and I've gone back to being a child. I don't want to be an adult right now, and I just live my life like I couldn't when I was in school.
How are things in your life now?
Well, I have a mommy and daddy, a adopted mommy and daddy, who are totally comfortable with me being a little girl, and their children and their grandchildren are totally supportive. In fact, her youngest granddaughter, when I was 8, a year ago I was 8, and she was 7, and she said to me, I want you to be the little sister, so I'll be 9. I said, well, I don't mind going to 6, so I've been 6 ever since.
Raise your hand if you support that. But anyone who supports transgender must support this, because his claim to fame or his reasoning is, this is how I identify. Now you see what the devil is doing. And that's what I'm trying to get people to understand. Don't fall for the okie doke. So many of our people are falling for the okie doke because they don't realize what the hidden agenda really is. A father, 7 children, no longer can be a father to those kids anymore. He's destroyed that family. He reached his goal. And what people don't know is this man now is exposed to little children. So what influence is he having on them? Now, okay, I can say this. What you don't know is this male was actually sodomized by his daddy. It gets deeper. Because again, sin has no limits. So I've showed you transracial. I've showed you transabled. I've showed you trans age. Now I'm showing you trans species. People who identify as a different species.
Have you ever seen March of the Penguins, where they go and they march in Antarctica and they huddle up in a group and we all protect our eggs? And we wait until the eggs hatch, and then we feed our young.
We feed our young.
It's just the most beautiful thing. You never see that in humanity. That's why I just love the penguins.
Okay, so as Mr. Wyan explained, the decision that was made about the headgear, not the costume. Is that correct, Mr. White?
That's correct. He can wear the costume, but he cannot wear the headgear.
Well, what about the people who are like Islamic and they can wear their
We're
headgear?
going to talk about you.
Okay. I feel like I'm being singled out against everyone else because other people are allowed to wear their headgear, and this is just me expressing who I am. I feel like you guys are trying to discriminate against people who identify as different species.
What would you asking you to do not to wear the headgear?
I don't feel comfortable without it on sometimes. I don't feel confident. It upsets me without it on. I feel like myself. This is who I am. I don't.
So what's going to happen, Kevin? I'm going to go call Mom, and then she's going to come pick you up, okay? Because you're refusing to listen to what we're trying to tell you. We've already made it clear about the headgear. You can't wear it.
This isn't against any rules, though.
This young man identifies as a penguin. They're telling him he can't wear his headgear. But what's so devastatingly sad, they're allowing him to wear this costume at a high school. This world is going mad. And I'm trying to get you all to understand, you have no idea what Satan is doing. And that's why it's so critical that we meet him headway. The church is always on the defense. When are we going to start being on the offense? This young man, his friend identified as a gorilla. Now, people will laugh at it, but that's sad. And what's even sadder is that high school allows them to come, and what's even sadder, their parents allow them to come. What effect are they having on the other kids? What was the reason? This is a symptom. What in the world caused this young man to think the way he's thinking? What kind of abuse did he go through? Only God knows. This other young lady identifies as a cat.
Jeg er Lano, 20 år. Jeg har vært katt hele livet. Jeg fant ut at jeg var katt når jeg var 16 år, da leger og psykologer fant ut hva som var med meg. Under fødselen så skjedde en genfeil.
My birthday was a genetic defect. So instead of being born as a cat, she's born as a human because of genetic defect.
Hva ting hører og ser du her som kanskje ikke jeg får med meg?
Kofferter som triller, personer som driver og fukler i jakkelommene sine med nøkler, folk som går med sånne pigger på skoa.
Hva skjedde nå?
Det er en hund der sånn. Når jeg møter hunder på gata, så kan det hende at jeg freser.
And for animal lovers, we have cats, we also have dogs.
32-year-old Tom works as a sound and lighting technician for a local theatre. But after a long day at the office, this is where he likes to sleep.
I can actually fit in quite successfully. And to be honest with you, from there on in, I'm comfortable.
It doesn't look very comfortable.
It's bizarre. It doesn't look comfortable, but then I mean, you can shuffle around. You can make yourself a different shape and curl up differently, swap the corners, go to the opposite side. It looks bijou, but actually there's a lot more space in here than you really think.
For the past 10 years, Tom has spent every spare moment becoming a dog.
If I'm in here for a long time, if facilities needed, puppy training pads.
What's a puppy training pad?
Puppy training pads, they're there for small puppy spills normally, but they're quite absorbent. And it just means that if I do get sort of suddenly caught out, I've got the chance to relieve and relax.
Tom spent more than £4,000 on specially made gear to transform into his alter ego, Spot.
This looks challenging.
It is very challenging to get on. Because it's custom made, custom sized, it's that much more awkward to get into. You need a fair bit of talc. Most rubber pups in the sort of community do actually need a hand to get in. They can't do it on their own.
Tom keeps his puppy gear at his friend Rachel's house.
Right, I'll turn around and do it.
Whichever's up to you. I'll go that way.
I need you a new one.
I know.
It's worse than a pair of tights. Jesus.
Whee!
Happy?
Yep. Right, time for the hood. Got nose tubes, means I can breathe like a puppy. They got my nostrils, and they then come round to the actual puppy's hood's nostrils. Now they're in there. You can breathe through your nose of a puppy, which is nice. Right. Front paws. I'm a Dalmatian. They want to be on the go all the time. They're and active.
Satan's goal is to erase the image of God in humanity. Just so you know, there are around 10,000 men across the country who enjoy dressing up like dogs. Transgender, transracial, transable, transager, trans species, Where's it going to stop? Behold the new normal. Jet Magazine, the coolest black family in America, number 10. This is what happens when error is embraced. Now, I'm going to show you something, and I'm going to ask you to give me the remedy. Because sin is so corruptive and so confusing and creates so, God said, I'm not the author of confusion. It is so confusing, even the very elect would not know what to do.
When you're a child, your mom and dad are the entire universe, and that universe is expanding. Just this week, the lead actor in Transparent, who plays a transgender father, won a Golden Globe. And 2 little boys in Kentucky are part of this expanding world. Their transgender parents have endured more than most to find each other and to bring them into the world. A mom and dad who haven't told their neighbors they weren't born this way, haven't told them, that is, until tonight. On the surface, the Bowsers may look like an ordinary family.
Do we have tomatoes?
There's mom, Bianca, age 32, dad, Nick, he's 27. And their 2 rambunctious toddlers, Kai, aged 3, and Pax, 17 months.
I got it! Yay! Merry Christmas.
But in their wildest dreams, these 2 parents never imagined that they would get to enjoy this kind of ordinary. Because behind her long black hair and feminine figure, Bianca was born a boy named Jason. And despite his cropped hair and the whisper of a mustache, Nick was born a girl named Nicole.
We fit the basic definition of what a transgender person is, so...
Let me just show you a trick though, okay?
Our children do not see us as transgender people. We are mommy and daddy.
Don't go, Mommy and Daddy.
We'll be right back.
A mommy and a daddy with a twist. Both were born in Georgia and have followed remarkably mirrored paths.
How old were each of you when you first realized something's not right? I don't think this is matching up.
I guess it was about 5 years old. I remember sneaking into Mom's closet when she was off at work and putting on a pair of heels. I've always felt more liberated during those moments.
I always thought, I want to be a boy. I looked at boys, I saw, guys with their shirts off, and I was like, that's what I want to look like.
As teenagers, feeling trapped in their bodies, they faced cruel taunts.
And name-calling and being picked on and bullying.
What kinds of names?
Queer, fag, the general cruel names, yes. My mannerisms were more effeminate, and I just did not fit the mold.
Nick says he didn't have it any easier. He left home at 17.
Was your family supportive?
No, they were not, no.
Well, so both of you experienced a lot of rejection around trying to figure out who you were as people.
Right.
I don't think anybody can understand what it's like to be us.
Unless you're transgender, you
If
are.
you're transgender, you won't.
No. 20 is when I came to terms with being transgender, starting to live my life as a woman, applying the makeup, wearing women's clothing.
And is that when you first truly feel like you found happiness?
That is where a heavy weight on my shoulders was lifted, yes.
But even after struggling for so long to find their true identities, they still never believed they'd find anyone else.
Did you ever feel like no one's going to ever want to be with me because of who I am?
Yes.
So neither of you ever expected to find a soulmate, a life mate?
No.
No, not at all.
Each was taking hormones and considering expensive surgeries to transform their bodies into the genders they so deeply believed they were born to be.
I had planned on gender reassignment surgery, and I was starting to save up my money for it. I had already made my plan, and then I met Nick.
Bianca, a performer at a local club, was getting ready for her act when one night Nick walked in.
He caught my eye, and our bartender friend, I asked her if she knew who he was, and she said yeah. And I said, well, just let him know I think he's cute.
And Bianca walked up to me and said who she was.
How quickly did the two of you fall in love?
It was pretty instant for me.
They dated for a year. And marriage, a small ceremony in Georgia, the first dance, and a first step to their life together. One in which their most intimate moments require literally reverting to the sexual identities with which they were born, but now reject.
People want to know how we have sex. I'm like, well, how do you have sex?
Same way you have sex.
Same way.
Right.
It works all the same way.
In essence, when you are having sex, you're having sex with a man.
I don't view Bianca as a man, regardless of what she might have. For me, in my head, that's not what I see. It's not how I feel.
They began to...
Question. Would you allow their children to play with your child? Now we see how critical this thing gets. Those people really believe what they are. They really believe that. They really feel deep down inside. I see hand. They really feel deep down inside that that's who they are. Now, I'm going to throw a monkey wrench. They still are involved with the opposite sex. Does that make any difference? The male who thinks he is female is still dealing with a female who thinks she's a male. But they're not in a homosexual relationship because in all actuality, XX is still dealing with XY. You see how confusing our sin can get? And the thing is, why would you all good Christians not want those sweet little children to play with your children? Why would you all good Christians be so hard fast to deny those little babies the pleasure of playing with your children? Now you see why this thing is going to come to a head. And now the little boys will says, my daddy had me. My mama has a penis. That's their reality. And that's what's happening in our culture. And now you see, Patriarchs and Prophets, 3:20, I think, come here. It was and is Satan's studied effort to pervert the marriage, to weaken its what? Lessen its sacredness, for in no sure way could he deface the image of God in man and open the door to misery and vice, and now you see the hidden agenda. Very simple. And the church, as we stand right now, as we talk right now, the church is not ready or able to deal with this hidden agenda. So, our children, our nieces, our nephews are now subject to a world going mad because, my brothers and sisters, again, we don't know what we're getting into. If you hold your question, my brother, I'll be coming to you. I've got to get this out the way because this right here has to be, I got to go through it without interruption. The national agenda to corrupt our children.
Over the past decade, several states have passed laws that open women's bathrooms, locker rooms, and shelters to anyone who identifies as a woman, including biological males. Many women have objected, citing issues of privacy and safety. Men who identify as transgender and their allies have dismissed these concerns. They say that no woman would have anything to fear from those who call themselves trans women. This film covers just a small selection of violent and predatory men, all of whom would be allowed into women's most vulnerable spaces under the laws that are being passed around the country. Please watch and decide for yourself whether women have reason to be concerned. Thomas Lee Benson was convicted of both paying to view child pornography and first-degree sexual abuse. The victims were grade school girls in his neighborhood. He was caught in a women's changing room and was sent to prison. On release, he was designated a predatory sex offender. 5 years later, he put on women's clothes and entered a dressing room where girls were changing into swimsuits. 2 years after that, he was caught yet again in a women's changing room. A few years later, dressed in a bra, wig, and lipstick, he was caught after invading yet another girl's locker room. Taylor Bueller put on a bra and a wig and entered a women's bathroom at a community college to spy on women. The police found a pair of women's underwear in his front pocket. He admitted that he was the suspect in an earlier voyeurism incident at the same school. In that incident, he took a shower in the girls' locker room for sexual gratification. Dressed in a wig and women's clothing, Jason Pomare snuck into a Macy's bathroom to videotape women. He reached under stalls and filmed women using the toilets, acquiring hours of footage. Lila Perry is a teenage boy who insists he is a girl. The school district gave him a private restroom, but he wanted to use the girls' locker room, and so he started using it. The girls organized a school walkout in protest. The federal government is now threatening schools with loss of funding if they don't give in to the demands of teenage boys to access naked girls. James Jimmy Lilly is a 24-year-old man who identifies as transgender and says he is in the process of becoming a woman. He is a youth minister and is getting a teaching degree. He has also been charged with multiple counts of sexual abuse of a female juvenile, including 1 count of incest, 1 count of second-degree sexual assault, and 31 counts of first-degree sexual abuse.
People say that we have nothing to fear by allowing biological males to go into the dressing room, the bathroom, the changing room of women. It's a lie from the pit of hell. But in our culture, you now as females have no more privacy to the areas that once were private. We as males have no more privacy to areas that we once had as private. My wife works in a federal building. She has already experienced being in the bathroom with a male. Again, my brothers and sisters, we are looking at a culture now that has embraced corruption, perversion, and now anything is going. Target, one of the largest stores years ago, they came out with their plan on allowing anyone who identifies, and you don't have to have a sex operation anymore. You don't have to wear a dress. I can just claim to be transgender, and I can go anywhere you go. Transgender restrooms and fitting rooms are now the target. Washington State opens all women's bathrooms to men. Our Arizona bill forces public buildings to install urinals in ladies' restrooms. She said, for what? So that men who identify as women can still use the bathroom, standing up. Not only are they putting urinals in women's bathrooms, now I'm going to show you why this is so critical, because these are little girls who found a urinal in their bathroom.
This is a women's bathroom. I'll prove it to you. That's weird. Oh,
Woman! See that? There's even a skirt. Woman.
Well, people in Scotland
Now let's
wear
go.
skirts. Men in Scotland wear skirts.
This is the women's restroom, and there is a men's bathroom. Women's restroom. That's happening.
and look, even comes with flesh.
Most girls have never seen a urinal. It's going to change. Students activists are calling on universities to install sanitary towel bins in men's toilets so that biologically female transgender students who use them do not have to face discrimination. This is what's coming. This is what's coming. This is prophetic. This is what's coming. No, it's already here. Selective service is really, really interesting. Remember, the armed forces had one time, don't ask, don't tell. Now they're letting anything goes. But it's very interesting because as the Lord brought me into this research, I found out that there is an issue with the transgender individuals. It says individuals who are born female and have a gender change are not required to register as a male. And those who are born male and have a gender change are still required to register. It's interesting. They're allowing this thing to take place, but say when it comes to registration, only biological male, I don't care how you dressed, I don't care how you chopped up, you still got to register. If you're a female, I don't care how masculine you may be, I don't care how full your beard is, you don't have to register. That's called duplicity. You're not consistent. This is what's going to happen. This is what's happening in our culture. Charlotte, North Carolina, where we come from North Carolina. We're in Greensboro. But Charlotte was the one that actually ignited this thing. And this is what happened. This is what's written in their paper. Just tell the observers. What does that say? Girls must what? Overcome the discomfort of seeing male genitalia in locker rooms. Have I shown you enough? Do you now understand how Satan is taking sexuality and using a weapon against the culture? There's no greater weapon that he has other than sexuality. And anytime you call evil good, that which is good you call evil, that which is evil you call good, the church must stand against this, but yet the church of the living God is being leavened day by day. Case in point, this is one of the people who spoke against the prohibition of males using women's bathroom, a female pastor, transgender. Let's see what he has to say.
Madam Mayor, City Council, despite the arguments that we've heard tonight, I've got to speak from my heart. I am a transgender pastor, preacher, serving over at Sacred Souls Community Church, and I believe that God calls all of us to come together as one body, to be able to live in harmony and unity with mankind, one with another. The rights for me to be able to go into a restaurant, to be able to go to the bathroom, to be able to walk down the street without discriminative laws against me, but for me and with me, as every other Charlatarian here would have those rights. I think that we all need to have those rights, that we all need to be able to stand as one. Thank you very much.
Pastor of the living God. Now, what did the Bible say? We talked about it yesterday. Paul says, any person that claims to be a Christian, that's sexually immoral, he said, do not even eat with them. That's what the Bible says. He says, we must separate ourselves from those who are immoral. Now, we're not throwing them away. We're separating them from us so that we will not be leavened, but instead to be ministered to. But my whole point is, my brothers and sisters, what's happening across America, even in the Adventist church, we are embracing the lie. I want to now introduce you to Hollywood Seventh-day Adventist Church. The first church that I know of in Adventism who's still on the North American Division list of churches who ordained the very first transgender female.
One thing I love about our worship time together is that it's not simply the separate moment, one day a week, that's completely removed from the other 7 or 6. It is born of the life that we have 24/7. It is born of the gratitude that we feel for God for pulling us through those days and for guiding our path. So worship is very real, and I'm going to invite Rhonda to come up and join me, and we're going to talk for a few minutes about how God informs her life 24/7. Rhonda, you've been with us for a while, but I know you've lived a pretty full life way before we ever met you. So what can you share with us about who you are?
Wow, that's a cosmic question. In my early years, I was confused a lot about who I am and what I am. I knew from the age of 4 that I was different. And I had a hard time accepting the difference. Born, for all intents and purposes, a boy. At least that's the way I looked when I was born. But I didn't feel like a boy as I grew up. I felt like a girl. Had a hard time with it. And as I realized what society expected of boys and girls, how they would live, how they would act and behave, it was something that I felt like I had to hide from everybody, including myself. It was hard. I feel very happy to be here, though. I grew up in a Seventh-day Adventist home, and it was kind of a split home because my father was an Adventist, my mother was not.
He said, I was confused about what I was when I was young. He's still confused. But what this church, the Seventh-day Adventist Church now has done is enabled him in his confusion. And not only have they enabled him in his confusion, they have elevated him to a level of elder. He also teaches Sabbath school. If we embrace his state of existence, then we must embrace the trans-ager. We must embrace the trans-species. We must embrace the transracial. We must embrace all these trans people because they say, I feel like this as strongly as he says he feels like being a woman. There's no difference. And if you can't embrace those other individuals, you can embrace this. It's very simple. Johns Hopkins was the hospital that pioneered the sex change operation. They're the one that started it all out. Now we're going to see what they found out after years and years of doing it, because this is what science says.
Trigger warning ahead. John Hopkins psychiatrist now coming out exposing the fraud of transgenderism. Yes, Michael W. Chapman for CNS News reports some news that will certainly trigger transsexuals across America to cry out in agony. Dr. Paul R. McHugh, the Distinguished Service Professor, there he is right there, on the left, of course. He's a Distinguished Service Professor of Psychiatry at Johns Hopkins University, and he's also the former psychiatrist-in-chief for Johns Hopkins Hospital, who has studied transgendered people for 40 years, said it is a scientific fact that transgendered men do not become women, nor do transgendered women become men. All such people, he explained in an article for the Witherspoon Institute, become feminized men or masculinized women, counterfeits or impersonators of the sex with which they identify. Dr. McHugh, who is the psychiatrist-in-chief at Johns Hopkins Hospital for 26 years in the medical institute that had initially pioneered sex change surgery and then later ceased the practice, stressed that the cultural meme, or the idea that one's sex is fluid and a matter of choice, is extremely damaging, especially to young people. Chapman continues that the idea that one's sexuality is a feeling and not a biological fact is doing much damage to families, adolescents, and children, and should be confronted as an opinion without biological foundation wherever it emerges, said Dr. McHugh in his article, Transgenderism, a Pathogenic Meme.
This is the article he's referencing. If you want to write it down and take a look at it yourself and share it with other people, but I'm trying to get you all to have enough information that you would not fall for the lie. And I submit to you, my brothers and sisters, if most people who are in their right mind get the same information, they too would not fall for the lie. The reason they're falling for the lie is because we are silent. The people who are in the light, who must know, who have to know, are silent. The new normal. Men will become mothers and give birth, as I've already showed you. The new normal. Men will be getting abortions. And as I speak right now, quote-unquote men who actually are females, because they've got their their gender changed, even on their birth certificate, they're now considered to be men, and now men are getting abortions. Men would need to get pap smear regularly to avoid uterine cancer. Women would be fathers and would need to get regular prostate exams, the new normal. Child's gender would be determined by the woman's seed. Parents won't know the gender of their child until the child decides what they are. Again, Deuteronomy 22:5 says, the woman shall not wear that which pertaineth to a man, neither shall a man put on a woman's garment, for all that do so to God are an abomination. And God says, I'm God, and I change not. Last but not least, I'm going to ask you this, after this next clip, whose report will you believe?
Most of you know me as Riri Nicole. But from this point on, you're going to know me as Antonio, because that's who I am. The devil had me to believe that I was someone who God didn't complete. I was someone that needed to be someone else. The devil had me believe that. But I introduced to you Antonio. Right now you might say, you don't look like no Antonio, you look like Riri Nicole. But I gave my life to Christ. And he said, don't worry about all that. Let me do the rest. The enemy had me believing that I can inherit the kingdom of heaven like this, in the state of mind that I was. And that's a lie. That's a lie. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change myself back to who I was and allow God to use me as a strong man, because that's what I am. And I just want to tell you guys that whoever says that it's okay for you to change the way that you look or the way that you are, or to change your gender, told you it was okay, they told you a lie. I just got to say that. But right now, I'm working on me. Jesus is working on me, might I say. It's a lie. It's all a lie. It's all a lie. The enemy wants it to look beautiful and glamorous, but it's not. It's not. So I invite you guys to come with me on my journey as I rehabilitate myself. See, God's already restoring me, but now it's time for rehabilitation. It's time for me to turn away from anything that is not of Christ. And all that day is going to change. It's going back. It's going back to hell where it came from. I'm sorry. A lot of you might not agree, but it is what it is. It is what it is, and the truth is that when God make you, he don't make no mistakes. And the devil is not going to use me. I walked through hell. It was about six whole months of me being in hell. Y'all wonder why I did not make a video, or why I hadn't been the same, or why I was walking through hell, literally. Literally, the flesh falling off my bones, rats eating at me, my eyes were covered. I could feel the fire. I could hear the souls, and I could smell the death. And I told God I didn't want to be that. That's not what I wanted to be. Have me be what you need me to be, and use me the way that you need me to be used. So I invite you guys to come with me on my journey. Me going back to where I was. And that's being a strong man of God. See, the devil wanted me to think that I was supposed to be a woman, and I was supposed to marry a man, and I was supposed to do all of that. And look at these. Look at what the devil had me do. And it was my choice. My mind wasn't where I needed it to be. Right now, in the name of Jesus, it's going back. And I invite you to let Christ lead your life. Let him fix it. He can fix it. Ain't nothing too big for him to fix. So, from this point on, my blogs are going to be about me going back. And I'm going to let you walk firsthand and see that it can be done.
Can God restore? No matter how twisted, no matter how deep sin can carry us, God says, I can restore. And this thing is so awesome because not only does God want us to be aware of what's coming, but he also wants us to be there to help them come out of it. Amen. So many of our young people, so many of our older people, and sin can have you believing such a lie about yourself. But God says again, with him, everything is possible. I'm going to introduce you to what God can do.
You're broken down and tired of living life on the
Good morning, good morning.
That's the same person. That's how he used to be.
so we can walk it out. Mountain.
Sometimes the journey gets hard, but I can't give up. I can't give up on what I believe in, and I know that God is going to make it okay. And sometimes it's so hard for me to even look in the mirror, and people don't even understand what I go through on a daily basis. And not only that, just the things that I have to unlearn out of my mind at the same time as learning new things and becoming restored and renewed and becoming a new person. Keep in mind, I've lived as a woman for over 18 years. I've been transgender for 15 years. So there's a lot of things that I have to do. There's a lot of positions that I have to be in my mind in order to successfully transform. It's not easy.
But I promise we would take the world to its feet.
But every time I get discouraged, I pray. I pray. I have to have my faith. I have to believe that God is everything. It's the only thing that keeps me going. And since I've been back in Christ, and I've been trying to keep my mind guarded, things is better. And it's only confirmation that I'm walking in my full truth.
That's what God can do, and that's what God wants to do. I hope I've kind of opened your eyes to the new normal. This is where we are today. This is what our children have to go through. This is what your grandchildren are going to have to go through. This is what they have to face, the new normal. If we don't deal with it, my brothers and sisters, if we don't take this bull by the horns, if we don't talk about it, if we don't establish what the truth is, what chance do they have to remain sane? I saw my brother's hand, I know his hand was up, and my sister's hand, it's not quite 8:15, so we got a little time. You had your hand up earlier, my brother?
Just wondering, when will people transition to become God?
There are people who already say they're God. They call it 5%ers. Yes.
I read a quote in a book
and it said, and just to paraphrase it, it said that whatever principles that we stray from will ultimately shape our society. And I just don't think that they've thought this through. You know, I mean, if you look at the heterosexual community having children out of wedlock, we can see the long-term effects today on society because of children born out of wedlock. You know what I mean? So you look at this, we go through with this. We can't tell the end from the beginning and how it will shape our reality. You know, I just don't think they've thought this through. They're just caught up on the feelings, and this is what they want to do.
Well, some yes, but again, there in many cases is a unresolved childhood trauma. Plus, there's also hereditary tendencies. Sister White says people who have corrupted themselves pass on debased appetites and debased realities to their children. In essence, my brothers, it's just sin. But what did God say in the very beginning? A male should not wear that pertain to a female, and a female should not wear that pertain to a male if he didn't know what was already going to happen. He did. He established for us scripture that says there are only two genders, and the only time that they should experience sexual activity is in marriage. When we, as you said earlier, when we step from what thus said the Lord, all things start messing up. But the problem we have is the people of light are not even ready for it because we're a contradiction. We think we got it all going together, the 2100-day prophecy, the time, the health mess, we have all that, but yet things are happening right under our noses and we ain't even ready for it. That's why we're here, to hopefully wake us up because the time is near. Somebody else. Yes.
You made a lot of comments in regards to it's not here yet, it's coming as in Bermuda in general, but because a lot of the older generations aren't aware of the effects of social media, the laws don't have to be passed because it's already here. I mean, some of the stuff that you've put up is on my social media feed, and I'm not even tapped into these type of things.
Wow.
And young people are already talking about it as if it's normal. So it doesn't have to be the law. It doesn't always have to be in the teachers are pushing it because it's already on social media. So it's not coming. It's here.
Oh, here.
It's here.
Preach, millennial. Preach, millennial. You better listen to her because she knows that social media is another means of demonic indoctrination.